podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead Podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I very much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. Before we get into this episode of Good Brothers, I want to give a little, just a heads up that this episode was recorded prior to the additional layers of unfortunate, challenging, sad, disappointing, and disrespectful acts by the brother Kanye. So that's why those things are not mentioned in this conversation. So take that for what it is, and take the best part for yourself. Peace. Peace. It's me and Majestic, and it is that time again when we put something down on tape, immortalize it in the form of bits of energy and algorithms and whatnot. And so, God, we decided we're going to venture into something, and we're going to do something here, right? We're going to talk about the brother Kanye. And I am going to do our best, because I have a rule, right, as it pertains to our people, is that I'm not going to be out in public, like, arguing with each other about something that ultimately maybe we should talk about with each other, or that ain't personal, or even better, the rioting, or just banging on somebody for no good reason. Now, people been stressing me, and I've been nibbling around the edges, and not really Kanye, but there's a whole lot of these other, I call them substitute so-called teachers, on the various platforms, and they still getting a pass. They getting a pass for a couple more weeks.
You talking about Sean King? What you talking about? Who you talking about?
Man, I got a whole lot of. God, we are us, meaning everybody can get it. Ain't nobody safe. Ain't nobody absolved from guilt. You know what I'm saying? From the Sean Kings to I'll say a couple names, to the Rizza Islams, to the one dude, I think he's from England, that eats the fruit all the time, and the other brother talk about the guns. It's like different people, they got all these, I'm gonna just say this, not fully coherent concepts, but also I don't know their intention. So I'm gonna leave that there.
Here's the thing about that. And this is not saying, I won't be clear, I don't stand in support of none of that shit they saying. One thing for our community is that we take intent as outcome. Now, we can judge if that's good or bad, right? There's a conversation for that. So there's a lot of people who share good intent. We don't know if that means a good outcome. Right? That means a good output. There's a whole nother conversation if that means a good outcome. Right? So a lot of them guys, and when we speak of them guys when it's time, but I think it's important in this conversation in this time, because I was on a Zoom conversational dialogue earlier this week. And my thing to people is we've been through this before. Nobody wants to have this conversation because we want to imagine that our new dialogue is the dialogue, right? But I would submit, whether it's 1929, whether it's 1968, whether it's 1918, we've been through this time. Now, you could argue, have we been through all 2 or 3 times at the same time? I would argue no. But we've been through this. So what we do going forward is about how are we not bound by history, but still students of history. And the thing for me that's a challenge is, are we students of history? Which is why when I said about Kanye, it's an interesting conversation right? And you can add in Candace Owens, and people want to add in Candace Owens where they see fit to add her in. But I'm going to say this, and I think this is important. We could assume right now that every black person is in the same place. But you and I and anybody who knows black folks know that black people are not monolithic.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning there are different black folks who end up in different places for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And black people have always had a tension around the strategies for liberation and getting free.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
When we were in North Carolina, right? We watched the whole thing about the Rosenwald schools, right?
Mm.
And talked about that whole history that nobody wants to talk about like Jewish benefactors funding black schools.
Right.
And so we've had this tension of Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. We had the false tension, but what appeared real between Martin Luther King and El-Hazmi Shabazz, right? Yes, we've had these tensions. And we still have tensions in the neighborhood today, right? Between who say they want revolution and who say they want reform. That's what we call it today. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to assume or assert that we don't have these tensions in our community that we have to wrestle with and fight through. And I just think Homie is a classic example, frankly, of fighting through some of these struggles. And I'm not going to put a perspective on how you fight through that struggle, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that.
That's the whole thing behind listening to Homie. It ain't about if I'm back in chant play. It's about having a conversation about black folks and what it means to talk about black folks and what it means to acknowledge that everybody black don't end up in the same place. And it can feel weird right now because you might feel like everybody black should have been in the same place right now.
Well, I'm gonna say it is a regular concept that comes up in spaces where I work with people, whether that's work or community work or creative work. Like, yeah, we need to have a unified voice, and it's like, I rolling back to the conversation that should precede this conversation, or maybe I'll move around in time. Commenting on what the speech from the brother from Ross.
Oh yeah, man.
Going past, you know what I mean? When we start talking about, we can vigorously engage each other around what we think we should do. And we can also understand that we don't have to agree on all this. Right. We don't have to agree on our cosmology, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Of the universe and how things come together. We don't have to agree on the day-to-day details of diet, right? We don't have to. It'd be nice if we're at least close. At least don't come to my house with the pork chops. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, you know what I mean? However, we can strongly, vigorously still go, I will not allow these people to hurt you. I will not allow these people to do something to you and stand by and let it happen because I disagree with you around certain philosophical pieces or conceptual realities, or even, the deeper realities of cosmology. Like I said, if you think it's lizard people, I mean, that's your business. However, I can't let you keep saying that out loud without saying ain't no lizard people, my man. Like, that's where I sit. Right. Right. But the place where I get agitated, especially in the reality, accepting that I'm in the content, creating content. I am creating and speaking concepts into the world. And I see people saying stuff that's ridiculous. Right. And so when we get to our good brother, man, and I'm gonna call him the good brother because you know what? Whatever Kanye got going on with him at his root, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff Kanye say that I would be on that I can empathize with, be on the same page with. I've met, personally, I've had personal Kanyes in my life, right? Who's your peoples from whatever y'all connection, wherever y'all interface with each other. Sometimes he'd be like, man, that's an interesting way you just did that. I don't know what decision you're really making right now. However, right. At some level, it's still love, right? It's still like, you, and even where you at right now today, it is an honest space of where you at today, and maybe you moved from this other space, and so and I get agitated with people's comfortability sort of assaulting his and anyone else's sort of state of mind and who they are in the public space, right? Because that's an intentional behavior of going like, oh, look how crazy this person is, and this person's a loony woo woody woo, right? And it's like, whoa, like, okay, I mean, yeah, he might have said something that's a little different, but I don't know if I'm 100% comfortable with you being the one that gets to assess him. You know what I'm saying? Right. Without any resistance. So, so I think it's I'm up for us to dive in here because, and I wanted to be on the record that ultimately the engagement is about the love and the understanding, and it is not about the disparaging of that man. And further for me is the reality that, I'm not a subscriber to the like, well, I'll say it this way. Some folks say cancel culture, and to them that means I'm just going to stop talking about them and I'm not going to like go to their music shows. For some people, cancel has a whole lot more deeper and heavier ramifications.
Right.
And I'm more one of them people.
And that's what I'm saying. I think we need to have a conversation about the tension, right? Mm-hmm. And we had to resolve the tension in a positive way. To the point about Raz and what he was saying. Like, yo, we got tension, man. Maybe we disagree. Now, it's like when we come to our brothers and sisters. You know what? I might disagree with you about the fine print of what we advocate, but I don't disagree with you about what we advocate. So I'm not going to be talking about you in public with the square inches when I agree with the square miles.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right? So I'm not going to have that fight with you. Right? When it's people I disagree with about square miles, it's people I disagree with about the very nature of my existence.
Yeah.
My energy is better spent arguing with you versus arguing with the people about square inches. Now, when we're in certain settings, we can deal with the square inches.
Yeah.
Right? Yo, how you see the degree? Quote the degree. Right? And we can deal with that when it's time to deal with that. But I'm not going to argue with you in public about that. Right? Yeah. Like we fight in private, we are together in public. And now some people will say, that's like sucker stuff. No. Yeah. I'm saying that's political. If you say anything in your nature and your personality is political, that's political. Mm-hmm. But it's political in the sense of acknowledging the scarcity of time, the scarcity of energy, the scarcity of thought, right? So I'm not going to spend time trying to occupy your brain in a scarce situation with something that actually, at the end of the day, is not really important.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. And as you shared that and went through that, I just wanted to share. I think that's a really important conversation that we need to have about how we move forward in talking about a conversation. And again, we're going to have some conversation today where, you know what? Some of Slim's mind state is challenging. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that we can't have the dialogue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's line it up because, I mean, part of this elevated moment with that is that, my man came out on 4th of July and said he running for president. And and it appears, at least in some sense, that he's serious about it. And then that has, led to a flood of, social media jokes and, celebrity articles, commentary, from this person to that person about it. So that's what brought this moment to the stage for us to add on about it. But where would you like to start to sort of to dive in on this?
So here's the first thing I want to, you know what? So I want to debate because there's a part of it you want to start from the beginning of his own existence, but then part of it is like you're framing your conversation with a person about his life, which is
right.
again, we're in a space where I don't know if we're ever going to have the conversation about the red table talk. That's a whole nother conversation. Listen, man. Listen,
that's
man.
That's a heavy load.
Listen, man.
I don't even know. We got to say that for next week.
Listen. What say?
That might be a private stock situation.
What say? I go hard like Baltimore. When there's difference, you say Baltimore or Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Like
Baltimore.
She go hard like Baltimore. But I think there's part of. So let's not go through the challenges, and then we'll cut back some stuff. Here's the thing about homie. So number one, you say you're running for office. It's no way you'll win because you've already missed certain.
Yeah, you've missed all the structural benchmarks that you need.
You missed structural benchmarks, right? There's part of this conversation that you disqualify somebody, but then you bring to bear. Why would you say you're running for office if anyone that had any degree in political science or have been in politics will let you know you've missed your deadlines, right? So that's one thing that we have to ask the question about. And that's the thing that as not just black folks, but as people who are thinking a certain way, let's ask the question, Chan. How did you get to here to want to answer this conversation when, anyone that knows better knows you can't really run in a real way? So who are you taking from? Mm-hmm. Now, you don't like Biden, but you say you're not wearing a red hat no more. I get that. I get how you was trying to go and respect Larry Hoover. And for anybody that's watching listening, this is a time where you should go check out, Kanye's relationship to growth and development. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Chicago growth and development. You know what I'm saying? And you go check that out and see what he, was trying to advance, right? And so that's one part of it. But the other part of it is, are you trying to tap into something that people are feeling that we just won't have a conversation about? Mm. That like the options of a 78 and 77-year-old man, 78 and 77-year-old white men might be insufficient.
Might not be very
right. It might not be. It might not be energizing to people, right? And some people are so pragmatic and realistic. They're like, "Yo, I don't care. We got to deal with this." Right? But it's like, are we going to have a broader conversation that you might be tapping into something that doesn't make sense? And I just want to get what your take on this is from a manhood perspective. And from a Ask Your Oldhead perspective, like, what do you think the take on him, why he's doing this?
I think with son, the brother listening to his music, watching his behavior, right? Sort of like looking at his creative practice, even right from the music to the clothes, right? He deals with a high level of like, y'all don't know what I'm about to do, and what I'm about to do is dope. And I would say 7 out of 10 times, yeah, he right. You know what I'm saying? Like that's been his story creatively from the beginning, right? That the entree point he could really make his way was making beats with people, because people didn't think, whether people didn't think or he didn't think that people wanted to hear him be a rapper, right? And then he discovered and created that and tapped into that niche of people that's like, yo, I am of and from and connected to various things that we might phrase as the streets, but that ain't my life.
Right.
Right. And it's a nuance of the black experience, and people may couch it as like class, right? And maybe it's not, I'm not saying it's not class, but it is not about class in the sense that those folks who fall in that grouping think that they're not connected to that other group of people who you think they're not connected to. They see that that's their cousins, that's their family. They just, for the grace of, some would say for the grace, they go another way.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? A couple circumstances broke this way, broke that way, and therefore I'm cool and I'm going off to college, or I'm working, or I'm in a training program, and I'm not, you know what I'm saying, out here trying to become a four corner hustler or, you know, various other street affiliations, organizations, you know, trying to pick up a bird or a package, trying to move, you know what I'm saying? Like any of the gray economy activities and systems one could enter, right? And so he tapped into that energy real hard. And I think there's a famous, I want to say it's a Kweli interview, Talib Kweli, where he talks about, you know, him wanting to do this thing on one of his shows. And I think it was like he wanted to come out in a wheelchair or something, and like they was like, nah, man, this is my show. Like you can't do, and he did it anyway. Cause that's who that's the dude he is. He has a vision and he says, I'm about to do this thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I think some of this is rooted in, you know, he's made his, you know, pivot, you know, when we say the black community zigged, he zagged and was like, nah, maybe I should go talk to Trump. Some people give him, you know, him and his partner credit for moving forward some of the things that Trump signed off on or expanded or whatever in regards to sentencing. You know, maybe did, maybe didn't. I don't know. And then at some point, you know, it sounds like he realized or accepted that maybe this isn't going so well. Maybe this dude is not, you know, useful to my ends.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a very important part is, you know, he has a very specific, as I would assess it from a distance, thought around, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. Right. Which is, you know, we can get into whether that is how one should be or not be. That's a different conversation than if that's who you are. Right. And especially when black men do that, it meets a certain type of interesting criticism. Right. Because you either we alienate, if we don't agree, we alienate that man. If we agree, some of us embrace that man. Or we pass and absolve any of their other cascading decisions because we're like, well, he's just doing what he need to do. And I can see where other people struggle with that and where we'll go, I don't know, like, you know, kind of, it's, you know, not benign, but it's not I'm not going to like give it a this or that. So I think, like, to me, some of this is rooted in that. And he's also experienced that making an agitation or something that is a political, you know, statement has been a tool for him to move and further his endeavors. You know what I mean? From saying George Bush don't care about black people, you know what I'm saying, to when the first Trump trying, there was something else in between though that he did, and I can't remember during the Obama years. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't. Somebody that remembers will bring it up. You know, he has shown that he will use sort of that platform and that particular type of public agitation to create a space to like pull attention and then make a move. And so, you know, and I don't think it's like calculated, so to speak, as much as like it's, you know, this will happen, and so this is how I'm feeling. I'm gonna go do it.
But so it's an interesting thing. So what I want to talk about and pivot to is this idea, and it's all fake news, right? So let's start with every idea of who's a billionaire, who's not, is fake news.
Yeah.
Right? So this idea is Jay-Z a billionaire? Is he a billionaire? Elon Musk? I don't give a damn. Listen, you're either rich or you're not, right? Like really rich or you're not. Not kind of rich or you're not, right? Yeah. There's like really rich, kind of rich, and not rich at all. and most of us are not rich at all. There's people who's kind of rich, and then there's people who's really rich. And so whether homie's really rich or not a billionaire, that's not important. But an interesting thing, the juxtaposition that I'm going to use for just this conversation around him and Hov, and him and Jay, was Kanye explicitly went his own way, right? Mm-hmm. He cut deals, but he cut deals from a space of creativity and or power, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say Jay-Z didn't, but I'm going to say Jay-Z cut deals from traditional corporate stances. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. I would argue Kanye did not cut deals from traditional corporate stances.
Yeah.
Kanye cut deals from, I made a shoe 10 years ago, y'all still like it, so I still make shoes.
Mm.
And then he leveraged still making shoes that some people pay $300 for to be able to then go into mainstream America and then utilize the Gap. Right? Mm-hmm. So the idea of a Yeezy was so ubiquitous, the Gap wanted in.
Mm-hmm. And they want that energy. They want that like you gonna do something that ain't what other people gonna do.
Right. And so we had to have the conversation like, damn, Slim figured out how to do something. He's somehow to figure out how to mainstream this on another level. And we gotta have a conversation that, especially when we talk about Black Lives Mattering and Black money mattering, right? Mm-hmm. Homie made his investment, because you don't do that with the Gap without getting an piece of interest. Yeah. Like, he made the idea of fashion, of interest, architecture. If you read the G article, he made all that matter on a whole nother level. Yeah. Jay-Z traditionally made it matter because it was like, oh, that's Jay and his Pumas. Yeezy made it matter from like, yo, I'm creating architecture. Now, again, going back to if you find his architecture correct or not correct, who wants to live in a geodome, right? Like, right. That's not, if you want to live in a geodome, praises do.
But I went and saw the house that was the geodome. It was interesting.
But homie is wrestling with some other stuff, right? He's wrestling with like, yo, how you live and the shapes and how you live frame how you see the world. Mm-hmm. And at some point we got to ask that question. Yeah. Maybe the way that you live literally shapes how you see the world.
I'm going to say it like it is one of the background tension matters when we start talking about place and space and all this, right? Because what comes up is it's almost a this might not be the totally right words, but almost a disembodied argument about like where to be, where on some level what you're also acknowledging is this is the only place I think I can be. So that's why it hurts so much when it goes this way.
Right.
And I mean, and that's a hard thing, you know, and I ain't criticizing negatively anybody for that. I'm just saying the reality of that, if that's coming up as you're trying to have a dialogue and a debate and a policy discussion about the place and space and what's going to happen with it, that also at some point you're like, I don't know, these structures are the structures I'm most comfortable with.
Right. And so what homie is doing a different thing, and he figured out how to quote unquote be a billionaire in the same way, not the exact same way, but in a similar way to how Jay-Z ended up trying to be that. Now, the broader conversation is, what does it mean to be a billionaire? What does that mean for the broader community? And not just the community as far as any kind of like transaction. But what does that mean if somebody black says they're a millionaire, right? Well, I know what it meant if Robert Smith said he's a billionaire. That means he paid for a museum that I went to, right? That meant he paid for a whole host of kids to not have debt, right, and a whole host of parents to not have debt, right? So I know what it meant when he said that. I don't know what it means when Jay-Z says he's a billionaire. I don't know what it means when Kanye says he's a billionaire yet, right? I know what it meant when Robert Smith said he's a billionaire or the wealthiest black man in America, right? Mm-hmm. It meant something different. And I think some of these guys, they take advantage because of music and culture, quote unquote, right? Like air quotes on culture. They take advantage because it's like, well, didn't you hear that song I dropped on y'all? Wasn't that thorough? Yeah, but not as thorough as the money, right? The idea didn't equal the money. Kanye, I think, is trying to do something unique, but then the other challenge with Kanye is this, and here's not the challenge, the opportunity, because I want to be really clear. he is opening up to be a person that acknowledges, you know what? I have mental and emotional health issues. Right? Like I got some challenges, man. And I'm embracing them in public. And part of that I think is important because how many of us talk about Black people embracing their emotional challenges in public?
Yeah, we don't.
The other part of it is, okay, what are you telling us about embracing your right? Like,
yeah, what does that mean for us to support you in embracing that? Like, how do what is the next behavior? What is the next step that follows that? You know what I mean? And
so it's good enough to be like, yo, I'm dealing with mental emotional challenges, and I think that's so important for our community. But then, all right, bet you dealing with that, you engage in that. But like, dog, now what's up after that? Because now, how are we supposed to take the next thing that you say? Right? Like, and I'm not saying it respectfully. Is it like, oh, we supposed to take that as like this part of the game? Or is this like, no, that ain't gonna do with that ain't gonna do with my other issues.
Right. That's a separate matter.
That's a separate matter. Right. So what he is dealing with is, I think, the broader issue with the Black community, and even part of the challenges around activism right now. And like we talked about, mass mobilization, meaning mass organization, and mass agitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed to take how you see the world? Are we supposed to take you like super serious if you say to hell with this company? Are we supposed to take you super serious, say to hell with these people? Like, what are we supposed to do with certain things? And I think homie has brought out like, okay, what if your own family say they're not messing with you right now? Mm-hmm. What if they say you were sick, right? And he's like, well, okay, so if the Kardashians say you were sick, should we trust Kardashians or you?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, how reliable are they?
How reliable are they in the culture of like, yo, is they back in play? Is GOC saying you cool? Like, is really those saying you cool? Like Larry Hoover Jr., like, who's saying you're cool? And I'm not putting it on men versus women. I want to be clear. I'm not trying to frame that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who is saying you're cool? You know what I mean? Who's saying you're okay? We know with J and B, listen, they're gonna say what they're gonna say. They're gonna get paid.
Yeah.
You saying I'm riding, whatever. I'm in this game. I just think it's important for us, and it even got to be super long. I just think it's okay for us to ask the question about these conversations, and especially going to, like you said about Raz. Listen, like, my enemy is my enemy. My friend is my friend. And we don't get that confused.
Yeah.
So when people are trying to confuse it, what is the intention of confusing it?
Right. And that gets to me, you know, which is my, you know, my piece that I return to, and sometimes is like, who are you? What are your rules? I know what mine are. Who are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? You throw stones at my man. Who are you?
Right.
Do I have evidence that even if I don't agree, that you actually have something that I should respect? Right? How do I know you just not going with whatever the strongest current is right now? You know what I'm saying? How I know, you know, like I look at you and like that's where it gets to the question of, you know what I mean? If Kanye's family don't feel like he doing the right thing, he won't be the first person in American history that's outside saying something that his family don't agree with.
Right. No, that's real. He won't be the first Black person that be like, yo, no, we're not rocking what you said, homie.
Yeah, we don't back that play. Right. It gets into a sticky wicket?
It's a sticky wicket. That's a
across the pond.
That's across the pond. That's a wicket. I like how you did that. I like how you
did right in there. You know what I'm saying?
I can't wait to get back. Listen. They're trying to keep me from the London Marathon. I'm trying to get to the London Marathon. They won't let me get there because I want to be great. I want to
try to put a black eye in the game, man.
Listen, put a black eye in the game. You know what I'm saying? Listen,
get over there. So it's like when you get into what are we like on a very real level? It's like, we'll spend a pages of energy and texts and Twitter arguments around like, yo, man, like ultimately, if you don't really like what Kanye said or did last week, man, don't listen to his music. Don't buy them $300 sneakers. I ain't bought none of them $300 sneakers, but I don't buy anybody's $300 sneakers.
You don't you won't buy nobody.
I strictly don't. Like them joints gonna need to be on sale. I just, I can't get there.
And so I haven't bought none of the Yeezys. Your brother Knowledge Bill has bought some of them, so we're gonna get him on here to talk about how he feel about the Yeezys.
Word up. I mean, I seen some. They looked pretty good.
He said they're comfortable. He said they're comfortable. That's what he said. That's what he said. No, that's what he said. He said they're comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying they're not comfortable because you're shit. You know what I'm saying? I paid way too much money for shoes that's comfortable. So I'm not going to say that he said they're not comfortable. They're comfortable. You know what I mean? Yeah. And here's the thing. If you decide to pay $300 for a pair of shoes, if you want to wear them shoes for 2 years and 3 years, you know what? That's probably worth it.
Yeah.
If you want to wear them shoes for a season, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because, dog, it's a season. Yeah. You know what I mean? I bought a pair of sneakers, and I copped to it. I copped to the issue. I bought a pair of sneakers. They was $190. I said, wait a minute, right? And they was like, yo, they make you faster. They make you faster when you run. They make you faster when you run, dog. I was like, wait, they make me faster when I run?
They make me faster?
And I bought them. Messiah was looking at me like, yo, did you just buy $190 shoes and you think I'm not going to wear sneakers while we up here? Like, yo, you know.
He was like, well, you just bought $200 sneakers. I'm sure we got $70, $80 for me in there.
You know Slim can't go nowhere without politicking, man. I bought a pair of them Jones. I was trying to run and start getting myself together to get in my play. You know what I'm saying? So, You know what I'm saying? But again, I'm not saying somebody shouldn't pay $300. What I'm gonna tell you is, if you can't better yourself or make no money while running in them, if it's just for pleasure, maybe you have the money to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna disrespect that. You got the money to do it. For me, they told me 190. I said, I don't know, I gotta run. And they said, it's gonna make you faster. I said, you're gonna make me faster, then I'm gonna run them because I want to be faster. I still wasn't fast. I wasn't fast. And so just for you clear, I wasn't fast when I ran in them because
they make you fast.
They didn't make me faster. Like that they wasn't the marathon shoes. They don't make, you know what I'm saying? If you slow, you slow.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're not. So I just want to let everybody know.
There's
sneakers.
Yeah, I'll say this just to be sure. Like, there are some sneakers I paid full price for. Meaning over $100. And some of that was, I needed the right shoe.
Sometimes you need the right shoe. That's a real thing.
And there's some other shoes that I look back and I should have paid $160 for them because I can't get them no more.
Right.
I would have paid $160. I still have them. So, there's a cost benefit analysis here that one has to look into. And when we talking about the brother, like what he, if we think his play is insincere, right, or if it's some sort of strategic plan, you know what I mean? Because I think that the bigger thing is like, what's the impact? If he really goes forward in the other states where he can still file, if he really puts whatever amount of his money that he has into this, I guess it'll be a real test if he really does have $1 billion on some Ross Perot, where he can afford, or Bloomberg, where I can afford to burn $100 million, $200 million up and be cool. Ain't a lot of people on Earth that can afford to burn, $200 million up
Listen, but you know what? So that points to a couple of things. Only rich people can run for office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is then the conversation we have to have
Right.
on another level, right?
Right.
Either only rich people or people who have access to rich people can run for office. Now, we have to have the conversation if that's okay, right? Because I would argue we haven't had the dialogue if only rich people running for office is okay. But right now, only people who are extremely wealthy, who have access to extreme wealth, can run for office, right? So even if you try to think about it, Bush and them had money. Ross Perot, going back to the Republican of '92, which I think the Republican campaign in '92, just a slight pivot, is so important for America because the Republican pivot of '92 gave birth to Pat Robertson. Pat Robertson came before, but Robertson in '96, all this stuff, and then actually eventually Trump into 2000.
Yeah, it was like that was the nascent, populist piece, but it actually operated. It was conservative, but it really didn't. But it was not evangelical. It was not really tied to. It was more
financial.
Like,
it was financial.
It was just about money.
It was financial and about a different thing. So then you have that, but then you have to ask the question. Jerry Brown in '92. I have an article where Jerry Brown talked about being a populist running against Clinton. Right. Mm-hmm. And he was a populist running against Clinton, but he didn't have a choice because he had just came back from China and he was studying with the monks and everything. There's a book about Jerry Brown called The Man of Tomorrow that if anyone is interested about his political career, amazing book. Only person's ever been the governor of California twice, the attorney general of California, and the mayor of Oakland. You know what I'm saying? So you think about what that means to do in California amongst titans like literally at that point, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Willie Brown, Nancy Pelosi, Jesse Unruh, Dianne Feinstein. You're talking about some real titans, Maxine Waters. You're talking about some real titans. You know what I'm saying? But in '92, you had populists really pulling at both parties from both sides. It just wasn't as interesting.
Yeah.
And so now, homie said, I'm pulling at a party, right? And fuck it, I'm rocking out with Elon Musk, right? I'm rocking out with homie, and that's how I'm coming. And some people are like, man, you can't vote for Kanye because, you're gonna put Trump back in. But the question is, on a broader set of values, who aligns with your values? And if someone's being a populist, are they being a fake populist or are they being a real populist, right? Mm-hmm. And what is your relationship to their populism? And so that's why I wanted to talk about not the specifics of homie, but the broader contours of what it means to move forward. And as Black men and Black women and men of color and women of color, quote unquote, air quotes right there, because it wasn't a degree, right? Mm-hmm. So just so everybody understand. What does this stuff mean? Right? What does stuff mean? And how do we make meaning out of things that seem very just popular for popularity's sake? Yeah. Right? And I just don't want us to allow stuff to go without thinking about it, because I would argue the Green Party said what they said for a long time. And then some people made very principled votes, in 2016. And we got what we got. And so we all got to eat what we got because you made a principled vote. And that's fine. I'm not one of them people that's going to be mad at you because you made a principled vote. What I'm going to say is, when you made a principled vote, here's what we got. So now, 4 years later, what does it mean to make a principled vote? And what are your principles truly about? Are your principles operational or your principles intellectual?
Yeah. And I think that I think you strike a important thing there, right? Because if we look at who do we think would be attracted to the potential platform, right? And what do they want right now? So we could get into, well, it seems like your man's Trump is trying to lean hard to the like as close as hard as he can get to the extra far side of the right leaning reality. Scranton Joe is just sort of, honestly, he kind of just, at least from my perception, at least, keeping it quiet. Like, hey, I'm gonna stop talking so damn much. So I don't say nothing stupid, put my foot in my mouth, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, which I think is a good strategy to a certain degree, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, stop volunteering information for people got a reason not to vote for you. And then it's like, all right, so if Ye pull in, is he pulling on the alternative pick? Who is he picking off? You know what I'm saying? And let's say it's not yet. Let's call this the third party person, third party man. Third party man's running.
I like the third party man.
What is third party man's attracting power? What does third party man got to say?
Third party.
You know what I'm saying? Third party man's out here. He's like, yo, not the green party. You know what I'm saying? Not the purple party. Third party. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here. And I want to run for you. I want to be your president. Right. So is he saying economic liberty? What would be the ones? Economic liberty, gun rights, but maybe more supportive social safety net, right? Like, I'm like, what's the concepts that would make you attractive over these other two people to the people that's on the fringe with either one of them groups, right? Because what you want is, you third party man, you want the people who are trying their hardest to hold their tongues and to not throw up when as the other guy, dude with the orange hair, courts, I'll just say it, clearly racist, like on their face, racist entities in our society.
No, actually, fact.
And then like I said, your man Scranton Joe is keeping it quiet because he put his foot in his mouth a little too much, and he's like, well, maybe if I just shut up, people will just let me get in because they don't like the other guy so much.
Right. So if I be cool.
I'd be cool. I play it later. It's like meeting somebody at some kind of social event and making a connection and realizing your best strategy for this being a night that everybody wins is to just shut the fuck up. Stop talking.
Yo, but see, I know we gotta have this conversation about the red table and about that stuff. Because sometimes you just gotta shut up. Listen, man.
Keep it to yourself, man.
Sometimes the situation
you gotta keep it to yourself.
Sometimes the situation presents itself that, like, you knew what the game called for in theory or in practice, right? If you knew what the game called for, you got to keep it to yourself. And so, in the same time, just like we're talking about politically, sometimes personally we have those things in our lives that we have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like. And so again, I know that's for another episode.
Yeah, I mean, we could dabble. I'm just saying.
My thing is like, that got so much to it. I just heard about it.
It's a heavy bag, man.
Yo, listen, man. Listen, man.
It's a heavy bag, man. It's like a lot of grown people stuff going on in that conversation.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? That people are like, it ain't nothing grown in that. And my thing is like, no, that's probably the grownest shit in the world. And you don't have to like it. I'm not saying you have to accept it, right? You don't have to be okay with it. But you have to accept that somebody made a decision. Now, there's winners and losers in this decision, right? But we accept capitalism every day, and there's winners and losers in that too. Right? There's people who lose every day. This is what you buy, and someone lost in what you bought.
Yeah.
They didn't get paid properly for what you bought. But guess what? You still talked about it. But in retrospect, that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's part of this broader Ask Your Oldhead conversation. I'm gonna reserve that. I'm gonna say one thing that the other guy with two A's in his name, his name start with an A, his name start with an A, his name start with an A, and then Kanye West both got. They both seem to be lacking wisdom and insight about the world.
Yeah.
And here's why I'm going to tie back to the world that we exist in.
Mm-hmm.
I argue we've been here before.
Yeah.
Like, this is 1918, 1929, and 1968 all in the same year. But we've been in 1918, we've been in 1929, and we've been in 1968 all in the same thing. It's not the same year, but in general.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, since we've been here together, what are we going to do? Right? And so the question is, are you going to repeat history or renew history? And when it come to homie, when it come to Kanye West, when it come to, whatever. But let me ask you this one question before we go. Not because it'll be too late. And this is a super pivot, but I'm going to ask you this.
Let's go for it. I'm with it.
What is your favorite Kanye West song?
Damn,
so I'm gonna tell you mine. So why do you think about it?
Go for it.
So it's that song on the first album with the choruses. I forget the name of it. We don't care what people say. Feeling just to get by, right? And so that joint, because he tapped into a culture of Chicago that Twister and Do or Die, even though they had songs about Chicago and even Crucial Conflict, right? Shout out to them. Smoking on Hay in the middle of the barn, right? I didn't know what that shit was like. I didn't know that was West Side Chicago street culture. But when you get to Chicago, you realize Crucial Conflict was full out West Side Chicago street culture. But that song and the other song that I will say, that Kanye West did, two other songs he did almost to perfection is We Major with him and Nas on the second album. Yeah. And Devil in a Blue Dress with him and Rick Ross. I will argue those are two or three of the best done songs in hip hop history. And what I mean by that is best performed from top of the song to the end of the song. We Major is an amazing song from the top of the song to the end of the song. It's raw, it's of the time, right? But it's still relevant. If you listen to it right now, you'll be like, damn, that's a great song. And the same thing about Devil in the Blue Dress, right? Bink put together an instrumental that was amazing. And he bought classic rosé. I know, so people on listening may not mess with rosé. I don't know what to tell you. Listen, I'm a Ross fan. I don't know what to tell you. Fat Boy talk that talk. I know that might be offensive to some people, but like rosé talk that talk. You know what I'm saying? And you from Philadelphia, you understand what I'm saying. Homie talk that talk. And so I just think Kanye West has produced and been a part of some of the most fully well done songs. So that's mine. What's your take?
So I had to sit with it, and I sometimes try to deal with the Blink conceptuality where you go, what popped to the top of your mind when you said it? And two songs, Celebration and I'll Be Late for That, which is like, it's a celebration. Grab a drink, grab a glass. You know what I'm saying? Like, after that, you know what I'm saying? I ain't going to do all the lyrics. You know what I mean? Because it's when you celebrate, that's what it's about, though. Like, when you really celebrating somebody or celebrating someone, I'm not, you know what I mean? It's, we celebrating, fam. Like, I think especially for our people, we can get into a place, especially when it comes to our activism and our policy and this and that and the struggle and the movement. We can get real judgmental about celebrating, and we are people who have always tried to go, look, man, we still got to celebrate the good things and what we're happy about. And your baby graduated high school, your uncle came back and made it out the drug program, like your sister got out the nursing job. Like, yeah, it's a world global pandemic. That's still my baby. Like, and I feels that. And late for that just because I know a lot of people that, I'll be 5 minutes, 5 hours later, I'll be there 5 minutes. Like, yo, if that's your man's, that's what he is. But Lost in the World of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is probably one of my you know what I'm saying? Like, even when I don't want to like it, I still like it.
and you know what I want to say too, real quick, because I know we're getting to that time. I want to say what homie did when he did a song with Rihanna and brought Gil Scott Heron to the world, right? Like, he brought stuff to the table that sometimes we don't give homie his honor for bringing to the table, because he still was informed by another conversation. He still was informed by another level of culture.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't want to talk about that sometimes. We want to put Ye in the regular, I'm going to say the regular guy category.
Yeah.
Right.
He ain't regular.
But he's not a regular guy. And even when, and maybe we'll talk about this more next week, but even him and looking at what's the homie name? They're doing Louis Vuitton, Virgil, right? What Virgil was doing and how he brought certain street culture into now not doing Fashion Week, but doing like 6 pop-ups across the world based on like Black action figure culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna see you the joint. Like they tapping into some other stuff, man. Chicago dudes. I mean, right now Newark is running it, like we talked about. Listen,
Newark trying to come for the crown right now. Newark.
Newark is doing it, but Chicago dudes is trying to be thoughtful around it, man. So I just wanted to have this conversation with you, man, because I thought, your vantage point, and you always bring up really unique ideas, right? Really unique concepts around where we're at, where we need to go. But I just think we don't want to have a Kanye West conversation without cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
And without getting too deep into that, I just think sometimes cancel culture is more complex than we give it credit for, right? Yeah. And so you're trying to cancel somebody, but it's like, yo, could you cancel Booker T. Washington? And I'm not comparing Kanye West to Booker T. Washington.
Yeah, no.
But could you cancel a guy or cancel a woman that had vantage points that was different than the ones that was currently held? Acknowledging Black people have that tension. So I'm done. I'm good.
Word up. So, I mean, I'll close this with this is that, I mean, we'll echo them sentiments, man. Our enemies are our enemies and our friends are our friends. You know what I'm saying? Our allies are our allies. And there's the village does not require that someone always be sent away. They just sometimes need to sit down or take a break. You know what I mean? There's no need to take a break for a minute. You know what I'm saying? But if we really get into a different construction of how life functions, we have to have a different construction of how we treat people when we don't agree with each other, or they do something that we think might be, might be shaky. In any event, man, take the best part for yourself, man. That's our value system.
Yes, sir. And don't make no mysteries out of history, baby. That's all.
Ooh. Man. So I think we're gonna say it was over that, man. I'm just gonna say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my brother I Majestic coming on and adding on with me again. To everybody out there, please take the best part for yourself. You know, I'm gonna let the record and the words be what they were and say what they said. And you got questions and feedback, man, hit me on the internet. Hit us on the Twitter at Justice Rajee. Hit me on Instagram at Justice Rajee or at goodbrothers_pod. You can there's even a phone number. You can leave a message. You know what I'm saying? You can send a carrier pigeon. You know what I'm saying? A wild rhinoceros or something. You know what I mean? Whatever, though. Those are jokes. In reality, though, man, please be safe. You know, and I wish, folks well. You can find us on, there's a Facebook page that doesn't really do much. But if you want to go on there, you can do that. And